Welcome to The Explainer. We've got a pretty wild story for you today, one that starts with how just two letters are funding an entire country, and what that tiny example could mean for, well, all of us. So yeah, that sounds a little bit like a riddle, doesn't it? But it is a real thing that is happening on our planet right now. It's this fascinating little case study that sets the stage for a much, much bigger idea. A global economy run by AI that could actually fund a future of abundance for every single person. So here's the number that kicks this whole thing off. By 2025, it's projected that almost half, 47%, of all government revenue for the little Caribbean island of Anguilla will come from just two letters, A and I. All right, let's get into it. This is our real-world case study. What's happening in Anguilla is basically a small-scale proof of concept for this massive idea people are calling the global agent economy. So Anguilla has a population of only about 16,000 people, and it just so happened that they owned the country code domain .ai. Well, with the AI boom, that digital asset became an absolute jackpot, and the money it brings in, it's literally funding the island's most essential stuff. We're talking schools, roads, and hospitals. So how big of a deal is this really? You got to think of it less like a tech trend and more like they just discovered a giant, endlessly renewable natural resource. It's like a digital oil field. And here's where it gets really interesting. Look at this comparison. This one digital asset, which requires zero physical stuff to be shipped, is already a massive chunk of the island's entire economy, and it's getting really close to matching the value of its main industry, which has always been tourism. And this is a perfect illustration of a core concept we need for the next part of this, the bits versus atoms idea. You know, physical things, atoms, are hard to make and scale. You need factories, materials, people. But digital things, bits, you can copy them and send them anywhere, infinitely, for basically nothing. So, what Anguilla is showing us, in real time, is that this model works. A completely digital workforce, in this case, just a bunch of domain names, is making enough real money to pay for the physical, real-world needs of 16,000 people. Bits are paying for atoms. Okay, so now for the fun part. What happens when we take this little model that's working on an island and scale it way, way up, like to the entire planet? This is where we get into the whole projection of a global agent economy. Okay, so imagine this hypothetical system, kind of modeled on what's happening in Anguilla. Every autonomous AI agent out there, the new digital workforce, has to pay a tiny $1 fee each year for its digital ID. But that dollar doesn't go to some big company. No, it gets distributed directly to all 8 billion of us as a kind of global dividend. So, how does this actually build into anything meaningful? Well, remember, these agents are bits, not atoms. That means they can multiply at an exponential rate. And that right there is the secret sauce for how this could, theoretically, fund a universal basic income, or UBI. Now, in the beginning, the returns are, well, they're tiny. Based on this model of 10x growth every year, by 2028, the dividend paid out to every human on Earth would be just $12.50 for the whole year, enough to buy a streaming subscription. Yeah, not exactly world-changing, right? But this is how exponential growth sneaks up on you. It's super deceptive. As you can see here, for the first bunch of years, the dividend is basically nothing, gum money. Then, around 2029, it starts to get useful. Maybe it helps with a utility bill. By 2030, you're at a low UBI. And then, just one single year later, in 2031, that annual dividend just explodes to $12,500. That's a high UBI. I mean, that's enough to be considered a middle-class living wage in a lot of places around the world today. So this is the whole point. It's this vertical wall of growth. Because of that 10x scaling, the payout goes from being a little extra cash to a life-changing income in just 2 years. I mean, in theory, this agent economy could basically solve extreme poverty in 24 months. It's insane. Okay, I know. This sounds way too good to be true. And that's because all this beautiful, clean math of bits eventually smashes right into the hard, messy physics of atoms. There's a huge bottleneck here. So while we can theoretically spin up 100 trillion AI agents in software, we literally can't power them. The amount of energy needed would just break our entire global grid. Not to mention the water needed to cool all those servers and the factories to build the chips. Those are all real-world physical limits. So, what's the fix? Well, the idea is that we have to solve the energy problem fast enough to keep up. And one of the most interesting proposals is that we actually task the first few generations of AI with solving their own energy crisis. Their main job would be to design better solar panels or crack nuclear fusion, to literally build the infrastructure that they and we will need to survive. So this leaves us in a really interesting spot. We have this mathematically sound path to global abundance, but it's completely blocked by our physical limitations. It's a race between our digital potential and our physical reality. And the big thing to take away from all this is just the mind-boggling scale of this potential shift. By 2031, the value created by this new digital economy of agents could be about the same size as the entire global GDP of all human activity today. So the final question isn't really about the tech. We know the math works. The real question is, can we solve the physics of energy and the politics of how to govern this thing in time? The blueprint for this future exists. The race to actually build it has just begun.